I'm Tim Gouldy, Liberal Democrats member for Northern Victoria in the Victorian Upper House. The Parliament sitting calendar has ended for the year, so no more 25-hour sessions for a while. But that doesn't mean I've stopped working. Last week I went to Wangaratta, where we met with the team from Robinson's Pharmacy, the folks at the Wangaratta Rifle Range and Mawson's Quarry, and caught up with Business Wangaratta. And this week I've just come back from a trip to Corryong, where I talked to the team at the Bushfire Recovery Hub about the challenges of the last 2 years, as well as hearing first-hand accounts about government land clearing restrictions that stop people protecting themselves from bushfire. Corryong is still surrounded by the devastation from the 2020 fires. The dead trees on the skylines, a stark reminder of government mismanagement of national parks and Crown land. We also saw the government use their new pandemic powers this week. We are still required to wear masks and to check in, and there are still heavy restrictions in place for the 5 to 10% of people who are not vaccinated, though you can now shop in retail stores. There are still hundreds of thousands of Victorians from every profession who are not allowed to legally work because they are not vaccinated. As New South Wales returns to an undivided economy, Victoria remains split between the vaccinated and the unvaccinated. Border towns will once again suffer as customers flock to New South Wales, where masks and vaccines are not required. This is no longer about health. It's about the Mad King, Dan Andrews, demonstrating his total control over us all, and breaking those who dare to challenge him. But the government's forced vaccination regime is creating an unvaccinated economy that operates as a black market. The more they tighten their grip, the more Victorians will slip through their fingers. Because of the mandates, vaccination has become a tribal political issue instead of a health issue. Many people have called in to tell us that they've been turned away from health services because they are unvaccinated. Neither the old nor the new public health directions require anyone to be vaccinated to access health services. If a doctor's clinic is turning away unvaccinated patients, it's a decision that they are making on their own. It's not based on government requirements. Perhaps they have good reasons for it, but they should not be hiding behind the excuse of health directives. A lot of people have contacted my office explaining that they've had a serious reaction, even hospitalisation, from their first vaccine dose, but that is not considered reasonable grounds for getting an exemption. The official government advice is that anaphylactic reactions are grounds for an exemption, but many appeals for exemption are refused anyway. These are people who went to get their first shot, but who ended up in hospital. It's become a new ideological crusade that has less to do with health and is more about punishing and ostracising the non-compliant. It's about casting unvaccinated people as selfish, ignorant and unclean, and then making them suffer until they submit. It's a cruel way to get people to do what you want them to do. In my view, the way to improve vaccination rates is through discussion. Instead of refusing healthcare and exemption to the unvaccinated, doctors should make good faith efforts to explain the safety and effectiveness of vaccination. The government doesn't even try to explain vaccination. They assert the vaccine is the only way and then punish anyone who doesn't get on board. Since grabbing the emergency powers back in March last year, they've never tried to convince or persuade. They've relied on coercion and force to achieve their ends. Lockdowns, mask mandates, vaccine mandates. They could have achieved all their goals voluntarily, but to an authoritarian, the loaded gun is always the best solution. The Liberal Democrats are opposed to mandatory vaccination and call on the Victorian government to end the segregated economy once and for all.